Yeah, thanks a lot, Bijan, for inviting us and also helping us, giving this opportunity, sharing a product. My name is Rajath Narasimha. I'm an HPC and cloud product manager. Me and Dennis were a part of cohort 5, as Bijan said. So we actually came up with this idea when we were brainstorming. So yeah, very happy to share that here. And then, yeah, we'll see what Dennis has to share regarding his ideas. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, Bijan, again, thank you very much for having us. Like Rajath said, we were in the last cohort, I believe cohort 5, and it was really exciting. And during the initial kind of kickoff session, Rajath and I were kind of paired together to come up with an idea. And that's kind of how EthnoFit was born. We were brainstorming and we kind of felt like this resonated with us and the rest of our group. And we decided to see what we could do with it. And over the last several weeks post-cohort, Rajath and I have been kind of trying to lean into the proper way to attack this. And I think hopefully today you'll find some learnings from that, some good things that we found, and also some challenges that we found along the way. So we're excited to share. Thank you, Rajath, for driving a lot of this today, and excited to present what we have so far.
Yeah, and also happy to give you the opportunity to jump in when you need. Any one of you, if you guys do have doubts, feel free to ask us. To put things in perspective, this is a research project. It might feel so. And as an AI ML PM, you will encounter a lot of these issues which we did. And things are not going to be easy. Things are going to break, and if you keep researching and talking to people, I think they'll help you unblock a lot more things. So yeah, happy to share our journey. And as Dennis pointed out, we started with the idea of brainstorming. What can we build which add value to us? We deeply resonated with this. Both of us were trying to get fit at the time, and I guess we still are. There wasn't really a product out there which would take into consideration a lot of your data points to give you personalized advice. So we started with that the main framework as to build a solution for that. So my screen was okay. So I'll be going through a few things in the agenda here. So we'll speak about the problem statement, our vision, mock-up, which looks really funny and good at the same time, and some success metrics, how we would measure success, and also some KPIs for such a product. That's very helpful as an AI ML PM, measuring success. That way your users are engaged or not. And then after that, we'll go on to the limitations of the limitations and technicalities of the platforms, the fine tuning, and how you can get how you can I guess improve your existing model for inference, and a lot of that. In summary, we will end with what we want to do in the future and how we want to take this product forward. So yeah, so basically we're starting with the problem statement, like I mentioned, alluded to earlier. As a user, I'm sure all of us have been in that place where, we find different trainers and they give you some advice. It works for a while and you follow that, and you probably see results, or you probably don't see results. It isn't really data driven, and it's more generalized to optimize your results. Some of the advice, at least I've received, and I've had other friends and family of mine say, they're not really tailored to their age and goal specific guidance, meaning a person who's just trying to warm up and, have a healthy lifestyle, their goals might look very different to an athlete. And finding that balance is really key. And that's we from our research, there aren't many tools out there which are solving the problem, especially when you consider your ethnicity and also genetic makeup. Research has proven that a lot of body types respond very differently to stimulus, and food types, and also the caloric intake. So these are the things which really dictate how how well your journey is going to go, and understanding that holistically puts things in perspective. And that's really what we want to solve. Happy to have Dennis give his idea of the problem statement.
Yeah, thank you, Rajath. I wanted to jump in there. I think that's a great point. And one of the great things that we learned in the cohort, and obviously that Bijan and the team kind of led, was that we really wanted to clearly identify the problem statement and then make sure that that truly was a problem that could be solved and needed to be solved. And not only when we came up with this idea was not only vetted internally with myself and Rajath and our team, but then through the rest of the cohort and getting their feedback and some of the expertise across the broad spectrum of PMs. It was really kind of a great way for us to get that initial feedback loop and then say, okay, this is something that we should push forward. So having Bijan and the rest of the leadership, within the cohort say, yeah, Dennis, Rajath, I think this is a good idea. Did you think about X and Y when you were kind of going through that problem statement? And does that make sense? So this is really when you're in the cohort and when you're starting to develop these things, it's really beneficial to have that leadership to help you kind of drive the solution forward.
Great. So once you identify that problem, it's really good to have a user in mind. Mapping a user journey is where you'll find the pain points, and as most of you might already know. So really bucketed the users into three different groups. The one being an occasional exerciser. This person might work out a few times a month. They want to be more physically active. Second segmentation of this persona, and someone who's moderately active. They try to maintain a healthy lifestyle, but they do work out a couple of times a week. Then the last one, someone who basically plays sports or is an athlete as a profession. This kind of personas work out almost daily, and you could see them basically bulking and also cutting every season. So there's different needs for different segments, and I think narrowing down as to what problem we could solve and where we could add value was one of the challenging things. And we prioritize the pro athletes in this case just because, like the last point mentioned here, bulking and cutting every season is a big challenge. If you've seen fitness transformations, people get really big, and sometimes they might not get back to their original shape or really in shape, and they're trying to gain muscle, and they are unable to do so. And there's various factors towards that. And of course, if you do have to take that path, hiring an expensive trainer and a nutritionist might not be the most inexpensive thing. So we thought, is there a way we could solve this in a holistic way? And that's what our vision is grounded towards. We want to empower individuals with hyper personalized fitness guidance, transforming health journeys, optimized to your genetics, body type, and age, all on one adaptive platform.
Yeah, Rajath, can I jump in there real quick?
Yeah, please.
Thank you for saying that. I think if you go back to that previous slide, one of the things, again, that really helped as part of the cohort was not trying to boil the ocean. We really wanted to find a sliver of user segment that we could really identify and then action. And when we began having our internal discussions as a team, there was a lot of feedback around how we approach this. And Rajath and I and the rest of our team had some spirited discussions around that. But once we got to the larger group with Bijan and the rest of the leadership side, it was great to have that guidance to say, maybe you start in this smaller segment that we can add more value to. For us, that was the athletes, and then drive home maybe a larger scale thing as things progress. So we really felt like that was the right entry point for us. But again, having that cohort and having that engine behind us was really beneficial. Sorry, Rajath, didn't mean to jump in there.
That's great. And also, one of the things to prioritize here, there's multiple things you can prioritize where you can add value. where we thought this would be most valuable to athletes is the frequency of their changes. They are highly motivated individuals. They want an edge. They want a product which can give them an edge to do what they do best as athletes. So that's something we kept in mind, and this product is designed in such a way to help that. Not to say that the other two user personas won't be adopting it. It's a very interesting story of Nike, which basically came about. Nike originally was made for athletes. The shoes were made for Olympics and running. But right now, most of the people who buy all of these sports are, people who walk in the park, and so definitely adoption is something which will become more clear once the product is released and refined. But that said, at this point, we wanted to focus on a core group of users who can shape our product going further. So yeah, and then why a GenAI solution? I think that it is a very important question to ask. GenAI as a technology is great. There's a lot of things you can solve, but not every problem needs to be solved with that. Starting with the understanding that what is the problem statement and understanding the user journey is the fundamental thing here. And once you realize that, we understood that the product we are trying to build out here had to be very dynamic, had to be adaptable, had to handle large corpus of data and make predictions, and of course continuously learn through it. So having any sort of static rule-based system would not really work in this scenario, and would struggle with ambiguity. Hence, we started exploring what technologies were out there for such a solution. So yeah, so basically jumping into the solution, what is EthnoFit and how does it work? It's a very simple application here. So what it does is, you upload pictures after your workouts, different points of the day, or once a day if that is, and it basically takes in inputs from your devices and apps such as Fitbit or Apple Watch, and it understands what of course there's inputs for the calorie intake as well. So it's basically getting information as to what you're feeding your body. Are you in a calorie deficit, or do you have your macros correctly to shape your body in a certain way? And of course, you have the workouts with the heart rate monitor. So all those holistic data is being taken into consideration, and it's able to predict, or the goal is to predict where you can be continuing on your journey in the next 3, 6, 9 months, or maybe a couple of years from now. That's really the fundamental of the solution. Dennis, did you?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We really kind of came to this exactly what you're seeing is a lot of us use some type of tracking devices. You guys could see I have a Whoop strap here that I live by, and there's a lot of data that is pulled from that, but there's no visual cue that says that, hey, Dennis or Joth, if you're doing all of this stuff, you're going to look like this in this time frame. You can never visualize that. And we are a visual society, and we thought that there was a real opportunity in the market to say we have these data points that can be pulled from various sources, but essentially, how do we visualize that stuff? And what you really think of EthnoFit, when I think of it, is the visualization of that. And you can see that that's not me, thankfully, on the beach there in step one, but there are probably some photos of that, and then more of me in step four is ultimately where we want to get to. And so that's kind of how that process came to be, the visualization of that, and how generative AI and the machine learning, those things can help us get there. So we're really excited to share the rest of this journey with you.
Yeah. Then quickly jumping into the mock-up, like I said, this is still work in progress. I'm supposed to have a Docker image which isn't running yet, but this is really the meat of the solution out here. We envision some sort of input tracking bar here where you would click and upload pictures, and of course, if you see people trying to track their fitness journeys. you do take a lot of pictures and there isn't storage on your phone. Sometimes you run out of it. So you do want to make sure there's a scalable way for you to track those. And then these inputs are being exported from your device trackers and your other things which you have already, or it could be manually inputted for that matter. And then it already has your data regarding your BMI, your weight, your muscle composition, and all that. So really, what we want to do is for a person as an athlete, they want to go from 2 weeks to 24 months. They want to see themselves really transform themselves. How could we support that? I know there's multiple ways. These are auxiliary parts of the product, which of course they're there for a reason, but that's not our core focus. We really want to focus on the visualization of this persona going through different time periods. So again, these were the images are not real, as you can see. There's some flaws in it if you already can identify. These were generated by DALL-E 3. And the technology does exist to a point where you're able to generate these, but I'll share more details on how we are unable to edit those. So this is the user journey. Me as a user would go in and check or upload pictures, have all my data inputted, and then I see, hey, if I want to know how I look like in my existing workout schedule, in 2 months I probably would look like this. In 9 months, continuing the way I am, probably look like this. In 15 months, owing to whatever effort I'm putting, maybe I'll look like this. And then 24 months probably look like this. So it of course this might be more inflated than an actual person's user journey. But that said, if you did want to have these journeys optimized, there are ways you can get there faster, and that's where these additional services come into play. And then, of course, this is just for one user persona. The results you see might look very different to another user persona, right? With different age group and genders. So a person who looks like this, who's more or less petite, it is considered very hard for them to put on muscle and gain very quickly. So you would see them going from like 2 months and 9 months to 15 months and maybe 24 months. So you see the progress is very gradual, but it is very dramatic once you compare where you were in 2 weeks and where you could be in 24 months. And that really is what motivates a lot of people, as in me included, and a lot of people whom we spoke with. This is something which was missing in their journey, or in their fitness journey, I might say. They go to the gym often and they say, 6 months from now or a year from now, I'm the same weight and I probably look the same doing all that, and I don't know if I can progress further. So this is what the product is aiming to solve, to help you keep track of all of these data points and achieve the best self, achieve your best future self.
Yeah.
Dennis, you want to add something?
Yeah, no, it's great. And there's some good questions that are in the chat and we can answer those at the end. But at a very high level, you're right, there's a lot of opportunities within the space, but ultimately we're trying to visualize that journey. And I think these auxiliary items that you see here are really interesting, but they're not the core competency of our user journey. And so as the product develops, obviously the UI will develop around that stuff. But I think the core essentials are understanding, can we do that? And I think what you'll see in the upcoming slides is the challenges behind trying to pull some of this stuff off and make this happen. So it's an interesting thing to visualize and see where you're going to be from week 2 to week 24. Hey, am I going to be ready for that cruise? And be able to be on the deck of the cruise ship with my shirt off, like that kind of stuff. We're hoping that this journey will help manifest. So thank you so much, Rajath, for sharing this. I would love to get into more of some of the behind the scenes, which makes it easy or
please.
not quite so easy to do.
Yeah, I think that this is this. Yeah, I think we already explained why. We want to help you visualize and help you motivate your user your fitness journey, grounded by real data and accurate personalized predictions. It basically helps you guide you to attain your physical best, or also called as a digital twin. And if we did build a platform like this, how would we measure success? I think this is, as a AI/ML product manager, and all of us are trying to grow products, trying to see, which direction should we turn the ship. That way, things which were decided have to go on the roadmap. So we both, Dennis and I understood that the core value, the core competency of the product is to able to track your persona. So for that to happen, you need data. Any Gen AI or ML algorithm works on data. Fresh data which comes in day after day. I think that's really the number one predictor of success for such a platform. And then proxy metrics, of course, the people can spend their time on the platform, monthly active users, trying to check out all the auxiliary features, but that's really not the core feature of the product. So those are good, that those are helpful, that people are engaging with the platform, but that doesn't necessarily predict success. And also trade-offs, we thought about, how could it, go the other way, or if they did start engaging, what would be things which would kind of negate some things, some people, they are very anxious, they want results in, 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 3 months. So if you continuously generate new personas day after day, of course, there's the progress is going to be slow, and that's one of the trade-offs which we see in the platform. But that said, these should be refined as the product goes on, as we build, as the product matures and scales. These things, these success metrics are going to look very different.
Yeah, one of the things about that success metrics during the cohort, and I'm not sure if you guys have got there yet in the current cohort that some of you might be in, but Bijan and team did a really good job of really spending several sessions around understanding your metrics and understanding what success really means for you. And we had a lot of internal discussions to make sure that, hey, is that North Star metric the right metric? And can that be validated? And does that make sense? So you're not just building the product, but making sure you have an understanding of what success of that project looks like or product looks like. So really important stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Dennis. So, okay, now let's jump into the fun part. I think this is why most of the people are here. We explain the vision and what the product is going to look like. Now, how do you go build it, right? There's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of platforms out there. There's a lot of foundation models out there. So is this as easy as just hooking up an API and then just calling it? Well, let's find out, right? So approach one is prompt engineering. I'm sure most of the people here have in one way, shape, or form played with this, where you are able to send some kind of request to multiple GPTs, and you're able to get a response back fairly quickly, for that matter. And as a matter of fact, that functionality is still great and still exists. So text to text modal communication is still, for that matter, fairly simple to attain. When you start doing text to image, there you might end up with a lot of complications. One of the main things, again, with this right here is I used image generator from OpenAI, DALL-E with OpenAI. One of them were this is a feature, not a bug, where you're unable to generate or unable to tweak pictures of real people, and of course the AI is going to understand when you upload that. So trust and safety features have been hard coded into a lot of these, and we weren't able to figure out to tweak anything with prompt engineering. And even if and when we did produce these images, they were very slow and they were rate limited, and that's not really the best user experience. So assuming this even worked, and prompt engineering is what we went with, and if we wrote really sophisticated prompts to change different parts of the persona and help them with the user journey, That would still not be the best way to build it. And that would be a big roadblock. And we spoke to a lot of people and said, this is where we are, how could we move forward? So they suggested, another approach. But before going into that, we'll see, why these support APIs are not supported. Like I said, they are designed to generate new content rather than modify specific details of existing images. So really, regardless of which model you use, which platform you use, which API you use, that's not going to be straightforward. And again, this is an important lesson because things might look very simple from the product description and the pictures above, but the minute you start focus, the devil is in the details. And yeah, so how would we move forward from here? I guess approach. Okay, let's go into the limitations of the model. Like I said, does not morph or edit an existing image. Even if it did, as you see, there's some clear or obvious reasons that this person has blurred out hands. The eyes are merged out, and this definitely does not look photo or real. So they are hard coded or not safe for work concepts. Does not achieve photorealism. Some of the model is messy, or most of the model is messy. And when you start giving in more requests, the inference is fairly slow, or sometimes it stops and does not respond. If we have time, we can go into a quick demo session to show you that. But this is where technology is at right now. But it does look promising. So I want to pause here to see if there's any questions or if any other additional inputs.
Yeah, I think we can save some of the questions towards the end, Rajath.
Okay.
But yeah, there are limitations. It's good for us to kind of share some of the learnings, and that's what this session's really about, sharing some of these learnings, so we can continue forward and knock
Okay.
out some questions toward the end.
Yeah. So for again to go back, most of again, if you're building a text to text, there's a lot of models which are available on OpenAI, which probably work for you. You want to build a gardening app, or you want a personalized code app, or if you want to have, maybe even finance advice. So these are fairly generic things which you can build, and technology exists for you to do that. Anything with specific product requirements, which flirts with trust and safety, things have to be taken into consideration. And I'm sure, within your jobs, when you go out to build these are things which you'll face, and having the right tool set helps you unlock a lot of these potential going further. So yeah, we are happy in one way to have this roadblock, but we're also trying to figure out how to solve this. So approach 2 is definitely tweaking the foundational model. What that entails, I'll be explaining a little further. But really, having a lot of these data collected from different varieties of data sources, picking a model which is small enough for us to train, and which is accurate enough to give you results, fine-tuning it, and of course deploying it for inference. That's really where we see this product go. Unless we do this, there aren't any, I guess, backdoor entries. Again, we are still researching if that's an option. But as of now, this is where we see our next steps being taken. So for that to happen, what are the, again, you'll need to understand when you research, what platforms exist out there, which one's cheaper, what features are available for you to use that regardless of your experience. There are multiple YouTube videos which go into detail on tweaking a model, fine-tuning a model, deploying this. So I think it would be very easy to understand once you start getting your hands dirty. And again, this is in no way a biased opinion. The things we share from now are, are seen from the lens of what would work for this specific product, and not generic advice. So I would, if I'm treating this advice as generic, and your requirements will change, and you got to dynamically adapt to all these platforms and see which one comes out on top based on your product strategy. So So yeah, basically what an ML workflow looks like, it's very synthesized here. Like I said, setting up the project and business goals. We already set up saying that, having the, inference done in the least amount of time and, having the persona as accurate as possible. That's really what we are optimizing for. And in terms of data preparation and data collection, the model is fairly good at generating a whole bunch of data points. We looked at other data sources to see if there is images we can pull. Some require licensing, some require additional payment. That's not something we wanted to do. So there's a lot of free data which you can produce. Of course, it is rate limited, so you need to be patient with it. And yeah, that's a fun exercise, collecting data and figuring out what feature engineering is. I'm sure in the cohort you will go through all that. That's not the focus of this conversation here. And understanding how to split data and making sure it's ready to use to your model pipeline. Really, that really is the crux of solving this. And finally figuring out what platforms would you use to build it, to train your model and assess performance. And how would you deploy the model with the least amount of latency, and what kind of inference infrastructures exist out there. Those are things, I guess with research you'll figure out. But for us, this is what we learned, and I'm going to share that here.
Yeah, this is a good point. If you can go back to that slide,
Yeah, please.
Rajath, it's really interesting to see this because you're going through the cohort and you're learning the mechanisms around being an AI product manager and a leader in that space, and you begin to get the understanding of this information. But then when the rubber hits the road and you're creating your product and your solution, and you're trying to figure it out, you're constantly going back. I constantly went back to the documentation that Bishan and the leadership provided to go back. And then, like Rajat said, you could find a lot of this stuff and try to piece it together, but it is available. But understanding that workflow and where you're at in that space and where you need to go next is really important. So this slide is actually one of my favorite slides because it does help you understand, how to best approach it. Because there were times where Rajath and I we were working together and working separately, and sometimes we would bump into each other because we were trying we're trying to solve the same problem, so to speak. And having this workflow and being able to align ourselves made things a little bit faster and a little bit better understood. So this was a great slide, and I hope that obviously this is something that you'll gain from the cohort as well.
Yeah, I think Dennis mentioned getting your hands dirty is the quickest way to learn. And the friction to that is very low. There's a lot of resources out there, and I don't think we should have issues doing that. So refining our requirements, like we already mentioned, image to image models are fairly hard to get, and they're huge and they're harder to train. So our business goal really is, can we get a smaller text to image model, which is pre-trained to some level, which can generate good results. These are different models which we kind of synthesized. DALL-E is one of our favorites here. It's kind of worked for a lot of different questions we threw at it. It performed well. Stable diffusion, I think this is something which we're still working to benchmark. This is one of the smallest models, is very agile. Midjourney does have a lot of APIs, very well built. It's undisclosed as to how many billion parameters and what the size is. ChatGPT, as most of you might already know it, it's one of the biggest. It also has a lot of features which we might or might not need at this point. So focusing on the latency, focusing on the deployment, focusing on the size is really critical. Getting that magical number right is going to dictate how successful or not your product is going to look like. So we stuck with DALL-E 3 since this provided the best outcomes for our product. And as I alluded to earlier, training data sets requires a variety of ethnicities, variety of body types and age groups. So having that, again, you could probably license that out. As Dennis, we're starting out, we're experimenting. we wanted to play around with free resources. I think DALL-E does have a lot of these, and should you follow these, you'll be able to get these for free. But the downside being, as I guess most people can identify, there's something wrong with each image. Accuracy is not the best, and if you're going to train your model with this, I think that's one of the trade-offs we discussed. The outcome is, like garbage in, garbage out is what it's going to look like. So we are still researching, how to kind of eliminate these things which the image comes with, and focusing on whatever exists within the model, be it the eyes, be it the shape of the head, or be it the arm size or the veins. So things which we could actually use, and filter out things which are unnecessary for the model. And in terms of platform, so that was the data collection part you saw in the process. And in terms of platform, there's a wide variety of choices. And again, depending upon you and your organization and whoever is building it, will have different ways to solve it. One of the things we saw was Bedrock. So all the three hyperscalers have really good support. Wide range of selected models, fully managed APIs, and serverless or not. With Bedrock, the product, I guess the main thing was fully customization was not available. And again, any hyperscaler you use is going to be very expensive for your computation. So really, Bedrock is optimal for if you don't have to change anything in the model and you want to host your application and run it. I think it's optimized for that. If you have smaller application, I think it works great. For us, this might not be the best selection. SageMaker, I think this is one of our favorites, just because it allows you to manage a variety of IDEs, has end-to-end ML development. It's able to help you with tuning, evaluation, and deployment. There's a lot of process which are automated, and when you speak to ML engineers, researchers, they'll be able to help you realize those are things which are very essential, especially when the processes are very repetitive and you don't want to be doing this manually. Again, with all those features, this is more or less suited for enterprise applications. The bar is fairly high to get in and have licenses in. Again, the same thing with computing resources are fairly expensive, but that said, the value you get out of it for a larger project is unparalleled. With Google Vertex AI, I think it's a very lightweight thing to start with, and I think whoever has a Google account, you have access to Colab and APIs. I highly advise start doing any project with that. I think you'll learn a lot. Does have a lot of tools for model tuning, evaluation, and deployment. A lot of processes are automated, and it provides full customization of your model. I guess one of the few things I heard from a couple of people was it was harder to allocate resources, and was more or less manual. Again, it might be a feature. It's not a bug, because some of the resources, when unmanaged, can go out of budget, and you'll see huge credit card bills. So in a lot of ways, maybe that's what the product was meant to do. Again, there's expensive compute hours, and once you create a lot of these infrastructures between this, it's harder to migrate to another platform. I guess that's going across Azure, Google, or AWS.
Yeah, I wanted to pause here real quick, Rajath. I thought Google too was probably a good entry point. Like when we started to look at these things and coming from the cohort and trying to find a place, it seemed like the best way to on-ramp. I'm not saying, like, personally, like Rajath had said, like we're not pushing a particular option here, but I really felt like Google was a good place to entry. The Vertex AI is pretty easy to understand and use. And they offer a lot of solution and tooling where you can kind of get yourself off the ground. But as you'll see, as we continue on with the rest of the slides, there's a lot of smaller things that you will need as your product develops, and you may find that the particular solution you liked in the beginning may not be the one that makes the most sense in the end. But to get yourself running, I would say Google is a pretty good option to jump off from. Sorry, Rajath.
Yeah, that's good. Azure ML as well, you get a lot of free stuff, which is great. If you're starting off with 2 people, You have $200 in credit. It also provides full model customization, automated MLOps processes. Again, the same thing with expensive compute hours. I think that's something it's common to all hyperscalers. And then well, one of the things I heard was data sources were not supported for these platforms. I don't think that should be a deal breaker at all if you start adopting this. This is, I guess, one of industry's most loved enterprise architecture. It's really a complete end-to-end, all the way from data prep, model training and customization and deployment. The reason why this is so famous is it's able to have full customization and even GPU utilization. So once you're building these at a larger scale, the GPUs have the memory capacity between 40 GB to about 80 GB. The data sources you have and the model itself is going to outweigh that. So you'll have to have multiple training techniques. So it's optimized with the tensor parallelism, data parallelism. So all those functions are abstracted away, so you don't have to do that on your own. So yeah, that's one of the things. And to use that, again, enterprise customers have a real advantage. There's high licensing costs, but I guess for us, as good as this is, we might have to pass such a framework. What we decided was, how about we play around with some of the existing opportunities and try to do some things on our own. There's a lot of GPU cloud providers which just provide compute. They're 50 to 80% cheaper, which is great if you're just starting off and you're figuring out what things to do. But I guess it comes with a caveat that there's not a lot of support and software I guess abstractions available for you. So things are done manually, and you'll have to install things and delete things and remove the VMs. There's some serverless options here as well, which I'm not going to get into. But yeah, I thought these were great value adds. If you already are a good ML researcher, you know what you're doing. Some of the things you are able to easily figure out, and of course you'll get the compute hours much cheaper on this. And availability and variety of GPUs are a big thing for a lot of model development. In terms of technology, I want to quickly glance through what we just discussed. The user journey we spoke about. The person uploads the image. It has a lot of health data coming in, a lot of calorie intake and burning, which are fed into this pre-trained EthnoFit gen model. We will have CNNs, which will have feature extraction and self-attention. I think that's a good topic to research if you guys have not been exposed to it. And of course, the transformer model, which I guess a lot of people will cover in the cohort. And then discriminator with GANs and loss propagation. This is important to make sure wherever your output is, how close it is, or how accurate will you get there. So and then eventually we should have some sort of human in the loop. That's very essential in the early stages, because if a person looks like this, and if we generate a whole new picture, and that needs to be fed back in saying, no, that's not me, or that doesn't look like me. So some sort of human in the loop user feedback should be allowed to transfer the style, transfer different characteristics. Then of course fine-tuning the model and doing that over and again. Really, this is the core of the technology, and it's yet to be built in. There's a lot more research to be done. We thought this is the path and kind of roadmap research. Yeah, I have to share all these with the community. I know we have about 12 minutes left. Fine-tuning and inference is going to be real quick. And we spoke about fine-tuning, what fine-tuning really means. Basically you have a pre-trained model and you want further results from it. There's multiple ways to do it. And you want a specific data set to train that on. You could more or less do that. So basically, tuning hyperparameter is one of the most important thing, and mostly we covered in the cohort as well. That would include changing the batch size, finding the optimal pool size, number of epochs. This would result in higher efficiency of the model. That not to be confused with just the parameters of the model. They are more or less internal to the model, but the algorithm tries to learn and map. But hyperparameter tuning is one of the key features or key steps in making your model very successful. And that's really what. And there's pre-built optimizers out there. You might not even have to do that. In fact, a lot of these things which we spoke about are easily available and plug and play. You just need to research which works for you and what your business goals are and what your product details look like. Then model inference, I think this probably is going to be the most challenging for us. Inference is basically running data points into a model, calculating outputs into a numerical score. English value definition is, that you have a pre-trained model and you're asking it to make predictions or classification of new data, and that's what it is. So when you do that, there's three things which you need to focus. Latency is huge, costs are huge, scalability. Latency is basically once you send the prompt, how many seconds or minutes it takes. I think for us, it took us almost 60 to 80 seconds for us to generate a model or generate an image. That's not really ideal. And there's ways to reduce the latency. I guess if you decrease the latency, the costs are going to increase just because the infrastructure you have for you to build a scalable architecture is going to increase. So these are things we have to tweak depending on the model, the product's capacity and outcomes. That's something which can be solved by, from our research, this was one of the most scalable way to do it. This is an NVIDIA Triton inference server. It's an open source model. You can use those APIs or you can use it through them. It basically supports a whole bunch of frameworks in the back end, and it's one of the best in terms of latency. Not so much in cost, but yeah, the application needs low latency. I think this one worked out really well from our research. So to summarize, we introduced you to a lot of things very quickly. Hope that was helpful. Really, the summary is, for us, for where we are going with it, foundational models does not allow modifying human images, at least not right now. It's not a bug, it's a feature. So we are still researching how to tweak this pre-trained model and again, further training them on smaller data sets. Again, it's easier for us to create these ethnic data sets from DALL-E. That seems to be working right now. Probably end up using SageMaker or Nemo given the where we are right now. Maybe not, but in the future, those are the two platforms which provide very scalable services. Again, tuning hyperparameters is going to be a critical step for making sure the performance on a validation set is good. Again, this is something I'm still doing. I haven't been successful doing this. Is there a way through a backdoor entry to generate or modify current images? The feedback I have gotten is no, and it's a wild goose chase. But that said, I'm sure there's many smart people who can develop this in a very creative way. That way we can add value to our end users. So yeah, these are our references, and I have things to form some action items for both me and Dennis to go out and research and learn. But yeah, this has been a fun exercise for the both of us. I want to stop sharing and address any questions in the chat. Bishan, if you want to maybe prioritize them, we can go ahead and do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great presentation. I think people found it very helpful. Dennis, Rajath, really, really appreciate it. And for some of the cohort participants, if they're not so sure, for example, like Rajath talked a lot about inference, he talked about fine-tuning, so many topics that we haven't really gone into in the current cohort. Don't worry, you're going to learn it all by the end of the cohort, just like Rajath and Dennis. So you're going to be in good shape in a few weeks. So just try to kind of understand as much as you can. And the recording of the session and also a PDF version of the presentation will also be available in our community page. You guys can access it directly through our website.
Yeah.
But let me go through some of the questions that are posted. So Harish asked, he's trying to understand where GPU cloud providers come into play in ML workflow, given we have cloud platforms to host a solution. I guess the question is, aren't the GPUs abstracted, given that you're using a third-party cloud provider? Maybe you can kind of share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. We started with the same, and you'll quickly realize the GPU cloud providers is probably going to cost you no more than $2 an hour. The same thing is going to cost you about $6 to $8 an hour when you start training. So if you do the math, it's going to add up very quickly. But for that $8 an hour, you're like you already mentioned, the software what you're getting is is great, and there's a lot of automation which is not available. So in summary, if you have a bigger product, if you need a lot of automation, go use the hyperscalers. But if you're a one person building this out, it's good to experiment with these multiple GPU cloud providers.
Yeah, I think the same thing there too is you're bootstrapping your idea, right? And you definitely have to be aware of the costs and look at the options around that, because a lot of these cloud providers are providing this entire solution, but it's a costly solution. It definitely makes life easier, but it's certainly, if you're just bootstrapping like Rajath and I are, we definitely are going to take on all opportunities to find some savings there for sure.
Thank you. Another question from Shrikant. The question is, what's the purpose of the inference model? And let me just see, did the question disappear? Okay, no. What is the purpose of an inference server? Is that production instance?
Yeah, so basically inference, as we went through the slides, it's a mechanism where you're asking the model to give you response in a quick way. So if again, the devil is in the details. If you dig down how that's possible, there are certain architectures which can do that better than others. So having to build your own is not something I would recommend. There's a lot of open source architectures for you to go out and use. That's one of the things we found. So yeah, it is a part of your production instance. You need to have that's probably one of the most important parts of your production instance for you to get results. So yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I can also add is that the hardware for training your model could be different than the hardware for your inference. And depending on what you're optimizing for example, in inference, probably latency is a really, really big deal. So maybe some of the trade-off decisions that you'd be making would be different. Thank you so much for that context. Okay, perfect. Let me see what else is being posted here. There are still a few different questions. Yeah, somebody will not share the link on Vertex AI. Thank you. This is great. It would be interesting to know how much you would pay an AI vendor for a user journey. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I'm going to just kind of move on, but feel free to jump in. I can see Vishy posted a bunch of questions, so maybe we can kind of cover some of them. Vishy, do you want to share your most important question that comes to you right now? We'll go over that, and then if there's time, we'll go through more.
Bijan, actually, none of them are related to the hardware or software. They're more about the product features.
That's totally fine.
Yeah. So, so for example, yeah, from a product management perspective, one of the most important things, Rajath, is who is your target buyer? Is it going to be the individual user, or like universities and athletic that have athletic centers, or gyms where you sell this, where they'll offer this as an add-on service to their regular membership?
Yeah, I think that's something which we thought about. We thought pro athlete. So there isn't a product for pro athletes to measure something like this. We researched a few. None of them were none of them are what we're trying to do. So really the goal is to create a platform such as this to be auxiliary to all of this. Maybe not sell it to gyms per se, that maybe not at this point. Eventually, if we did build this, that could be a potential option. Or there might be other ways to monetize it. Having a model which unlocks a lot of this, which the world hasn't built, there might be value in that. So I think we'll just have to wait and see how successful we are trying to solve this problem at this point.
Yeah, Vish, I can jump on that as well. The thought was that there are other tools that utilize data points around your fitness journeys, but nothing to visualize that. And maybe we can see this as it develops as an addition to those existing tools, where something like a Bootstrap that has all that stuff but no visualizers, they use, you know, our solution, where then the app then not only shows them all of those things that you see here on the mock-up, but then in addition to that, some type of image that helps as well.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Great. So let me do one more question. This would be the last one. And so Shmita asked a good question. Was the bootstrapping of the idea involved? So Shmita, do you want to ask the question? I'm not super.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Guys, really thankful for this session. So actually, I think I really enjoyed the session and the level of detail and the depth, you shared how you thought about the solution. So one of the things which I have struggled, I participated in a previous cohort, is we had an idea, we didn't understand how to test it, like how to build some kind of demo out of it. So I was wondering, I think you said, right, you were able to have some kind of working demo. Did you only use like a plug and play kind of an approach? So you had like a known model, you use that and you configured some things, or did you require more engineering know-how and understanding? Like, were you coding when you did this project, or you simply used existing
Yeah.
model?
So I'm embarrassed to show this, but I can quickly show you what we built, but it's not really the best. So this is what it looks. Please don't judge me for this.
No judgment. Come
This
on.
is what it looks. This would have been the Docker image, right? So
Mhm.
this is fairly easy to build. This is already integrated. So this API call goes out to whatever model you have, and you are able to, ask questions. It can give you results, and you're able to feed in. So this probably should be here. So you can do whatever we showed in the mock-up, right here, and change this. So yeah, there is some level of coding involved, but I assure you, you don't need a lot of details to code. There's so many things available on GitHub. If you can YouTube on GitHub, the right places. This is not
Yeah.
even, yeah.
I,
This is not tough to build.
Yeah, I'm not a coder by trade as well. I can do enough coding as what Rajath is showing on the screen. As well. You essentially are trying to find the path of least resistance to get you from point A to point B. I think the one thing that we could say is that we left that cohort and we didn't want to just leave the cohort and then not do anything, because Bijan provided such great information and we digested that information, but I've had to go back multiple times, Shmita, like multiple times, to go, okay, what's next? And Rajath would take a lane and go, and then he was like, hey, Dennis, what about this lane? And we would go. I think the main thing is just to continue forward. You're gonna get stopped. There's gonna be roadblocks, but if you continue to find a path, and the community is great. Like the community is absolutely fantastic. So I think a lot of people there can help you kind of move that stuff along. But it's amazing for me to be sitting here with Rajath, when we were just in Bijan's class, not just that long ago, and actually showing something where people were showing us and we were all excited to learn, and now we're kind of sharing that same thing. So I would say the bootstrapping is, you don't need to be a coder, you don't need to be an expert in this, but you just need to continue path forward. Small wins on a daily or weekly basis are huge, absolutely huge.
And I think one thing that we could also do, Sashmita, if you guys are interested in kind of further pursuing your product, just to kind of add to Dennis and Rajath, is we could still set you up with a meeting with like our teaching assistant in the cohort, and he could at least guide you guys in the right path so that you can actually continue moving forward. I think Dennis really brought up a good point that like you're kind of looking for just like the path to the least resistant path to the next milestone. And it might be helpful for you to just like set up a time with him and kind of get his opinion on how to go to the very next step. There's so many no-code tools out there now that like kind of allow you to do a lot of this. And it's sometimes hard to cover everything throughout the session, but that would be one way to go about it.
Sure. Yeah, I think if you don't mind, Rajat, I'll reach out to you.
Yeah, please.
That would be helpful. Just to understand, like, how did you achieve whatever you've done? That would give me some inspiration. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think that advice holds good for anyone wants to build something. I think as we learn, as we speak, we'll discover more problems and we'll solve it. Happy to speak with that, and also share on LinkedIn in the chat.
Yeah, feel free to post your LinkedIn's. And meanwhile, I'm just gonna thank you guys, just because you're kind of going a little bit over time. Dennis, Rajath, thank you. This was an amazing session, and I'm sure people in cohort 6 are very grateful for you guys to come in and kind of share your journey. So I'm very interested about what you guys are going to be doing next. And Kai and I, both of us, are very excited about your project. So we look forward to having you guys in our community and hopefully seeing this product like in production, all working pretty well. I promise you, I'll be one of the first people that's going to sign up and use it. Congratulations again. And for the rest of the community, thank you so much for joining again. We have another great session next week, really, really exciting session on fine tuning. After that, we have a session on AI agents. And after that, we're actually exploring a very, very interesting session. I'm not going to announce it yet, but we're going to announce it next week as something that's in the works. Really, really fun session. So with that said, please have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next week. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
So hi there, my name is Kevin. I'm a product manager at a company called Vicasta. Really, I've had some exposure to AI and ML products in my professional life, and really I joined the AI ML cohort to get a better understanding of like the end-to-end AI ML product development cycle. So yeah, really appreciate the cohort. It's helped me a lot in product decision making, and yeah, much appreciated.